How's it hanging, YouTube? Peter here, your Ginger Geordie Geek. Welcome back to the channel for a bit of an impromptu review of some comic books. So, reason I'm doing this is, first of all, I'm home alone. My wife's away, so I've got the house to myself, so I thought, why not? Secondly, I've read a lot of comics this week, some of them good, some of them bad. We will be talking about some of them on tonight's show, on the Saturday Night Hangout show, but I wanted to go through a few more in detail. I didn't want that show already goes on for friggin' hours, so I didn't want to take too long on tonight's show with them. So instead, what I thought I would do is do a little bit of a rundown of some of the books I've been reading this week, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And believe me, there is some ugly. So let's just crack straight on. Before we get into the books, just to kind of quickly touch on some of the things that we've got coming up on the channel over the next few days, in fact, weeks. We'll start off with this. Just to mention, earlier in the week, we did a Spider-Man review. So we talked a little bit about our thoughts and feelings on the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie. If you fancy seeing that, go and please check out the review. It was a bit of a mixed bag, but I think in general, we all agreed that we thought it was a very, very good movie. Bit of argument about whether it's better than the first movie or not. But, you know, each to their own. I think overall it was a very good movie. So please do go and check that out for us, guys. Last night, late night, we did a 1/6 scale show where we talked about some of the recent releases from Hot Toys, some stunning pieces, and we also looked a little bit about pre-orders and the dangers you can get into with pre-orders. So I discovered that I had 14 pre-orders and a Batmobile all waiting to be paid for. Don't tell me, wife. But anyway, so yeah, that was an interesting show. Again, just a short show. I think it was about 45 minutes. So please do go and check that one out. Just to mention some of the videos that have just come out this week from my channel. So recently put out the 1/6 scale Old Trickster, I think it's called, which is basically Loki from the TV show. I have to say, this is one of my favorite figures. This is by So Toys. It's absolutely stunning. The likeness of Richard E. Grant for a third-party figure is absolutely obscene. I notice my friend Austin is in the chat. Austin, not sure if you've picked this one up. Let us know, mate, if you have. Both head sculpts on this are phenomenal. And of course, we're still waiting for the Hot Toys version. So why wouldn't you jump on the So version? The cape's done. Love it. We've also got the 1/6 scale Anne Marie figure from So again, which is obviously Rogue from the X-Men. It's stunning. Absolutely stunning. Yes, that head sculpt is the stuff of nightmares. All I can say, guys, is the more I look at it on screen, the worse it feels. But actually, in hand, it's not bad. It's not as scary as it looks. Anyway, I've just put out a video today, comic cards and stickers, saying basically I collect them now. Don't know why, but have a look at that if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And then later on this week, we've got this absolutely phenomenal 1/6 scale Magneto from Sideshow Collectibles. That is a stunning figure. I absolutely love that one. So I really do recommend you go and check that out. Later on tonight, we've got our Saturday Night Live show starting at 9 o'clock. We're going to be doing all things geeky, talking about the latest news, what we've been picking up, what we've been reading, and then what we've been watching. And we're going to do a focus this week on the best and the worst sequels. Now, as ever, I don't know what's happening with this group of people I've kind of assembled to do the show with us, but they're an interesting bunch. So already they've been sending us images, and I have to tell you, I've taken great exception to some of them. One in particular, in terms of what they're saying are one of the worst sequels of all time. So yeah, I think there's going to be some fights again tonight. So do check that one out. And then on Monday, we've got our Geeky Art Attack with all the guys where we're going to be doing art from the 80s. So the team will be challenging us to draw images from some of our favorite 80s cartoons. And Efren is away this week. He's got his daughter visiting. So we're going to have a guest compare in Andy from Perpetual Comics. So I'm absolutely ecstatic about that. Anyone that knows Andy knows that he's got some great banter. So I'm excited to see how that goes. So that should be fun on Monday. Okay, just before we jump into the actual comics, let's see who we've got in the chat. We've got good old StreamYard. Thank you for joining. We've got Austin. Always nice to see you, Austin. We've got Luke from Hydra Collectibles. Let's see what we got here. New books rarely captivate me, but I'm open to see what it's about. We've got some interesting ones, Luke. I think we've got a few that might pique your interest, I have to say. We've got Jack. Hi, bud. Need this all on my way home from Lego. Oh, God, Legoland. I'm not a Lego person. We did Legoland when we went to Florida when I was when the kids were younger. And I have to say it was a challenging experience. We're used to Disney and their kind of overt pleasantness and happiness, and Legoland wasn't the same feeling. But yeah, I hope you had a good day, mate. We've got my good friend Deadman. Always nice to see you. We've got Friday Night the Video Store. Thank you very much. I'm reading a lot at the moment too. Interested to see what you think. Yeah, and I'm really hoping that you guys jump in on the chat and tell us your thoughts on these books as we go through them. We've got 13 people watching, which is far more than I expected, so thank you very much for that. We've got Noble Young, always a pleasure. And we've got ABZ, top of the afternoon. Dead Man is just saying here, reading Blood Tree. Oh, Blood Tree. We're going to get to that one, Dead Man, because I am also reading Blood Tree. Interested to know your thoughts. Austin, I need that Magneto So-So. We'll be making one. Absolutely, Austin. I think So-So are going to really go down hard on the X-Men line. There was a question last night from Efren regarding how these third-party companies get away with it. I'm kind of surprised So-So hasn't been taken to task about the X-Men figures they've been putting out. I hope they don't, because I'm loving the figures. Oh, and we've got Andy. Just been talking about you, Andy. And thank you very much for joining. It's Andy's birthday today, everybody. So happy birthday, Andy. I'm ABC just saying evening to Andy. Okay, guys. So let's crack on. Basically, before we get into the comics, I just wanted to do another big shout out to the UK YouTube live stream YouTubers. We've got some incredible shows out there. We've got This Week in Metropolis on a Tuesday, who always put out some stunning content. We've got the Nerd Herd every Wednesday doing comic book reviews. They're reviewing one of my favorite books this week, Deadly Class, which is a stunning series, well worth a read. We've got the Killer Comic Show guys. They're back on a Thursday now, and the show is stronger than ever. So again, please do check them out. And we've got Grey Man doing his Cover Slingers show on a Saturday night, which is always a good laugh. Okay, comic books. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to rattle through what I've been reading, and there's about 10 books, I think. I'll know more about some than others, because I have to say some of them were cack, and I've kind of skirted through them rather rapidly because they were rubbish. But we'll start off with this from Dark Horse. This is Survival. This was a really interesting book. Read the first issue a couple of weeks ago, and it had a really interesting premise. So it's basically about this. It feels quite political, which is why I guess it sits slightly unnerving with us at times. But it's basically about this this group of American kind of gun-toting, yeehaw, you know, our right to carry guns types, who are in the middle of this, I don't know, forest area, having a kind of a gunny convention thing where they all get to wear the combats and things like that and shoot guns in the air and stuff. And a lot of them are ex-military, a lot of them are kind of survival experts and all the rest of it. During the course of this, an aeroplane crash lands in the woods, and it's got a whole host of basically Russian vampires in it. First issue set out the premise really well. The Russian vampires, led by one guy in particular, kind of storm the fields and start killing everybody. In this issue, the survivors kind of run to what happens to be an abandoned house by some guy who had gone mad and planned to blow up the entire village or something. And they decide to take refuge in this building, and the vampires are approaching them to kill them. It didn't grab us as much as the first issue. The political side of things doesn't sit well with us. But yeah, it's an interesting book. I will pick up issue 3 and probably give it that a last go kind of thing. Let us know in the comments, guys, if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. But yeah, overall Survival, it's an interesting read. I like the concept. I will pick up issue 3 just to give it a go. But it's not, issue 2 didn't blow us away. It didn't really encourage us, I guess. X-Men 23, dog shit. Utter shit. I just cannot be coping with these X books at the moment. I cannot make head and tail of what's going on in them, really. Everybody seems to wear a different costume in every issue you pick up. This one's all about kind of, I don't know how you describe it. Iron Man Sentinels being controlled by Nimrod. Yeah, this is a real disappointment because it's got some of my favorite characters in it. It's got Firestar, who I loved from the New Warriors run. I don't understand what she's doing in it. You've got Cyclops, Magic, who I absolutely love, and Forge, who is great. And Sync, I believe his name is. There's a section in this where and I'm not 100% with X-Men at the moment, but I know they can all be resurrected on Krakoa and stuff like that. But there's a bit in this where Sync gets squashed by the Sentinel, and you can see his bones poking out of his leg and stuff like that. And I think he syncs with Laura, X-23, to kind of do her healing powers. But my issue with the X-Books at the moment is it feels like there's no stakes. If anybody can die and just get back up and all the rest of it, it just doesn't feel... It doesn't feel like it's got any kind of high stakes at all. So yeah, not impressed with the X-Books in general. Just going to jump on the chat before I go to You've Been Cancelled, which was mint. So Jack spent £160 in the shop, nearly bought a £350 Batcave for myself. Wow. This is the thing with Lego, Jack. It's so expensive. I think I pulled the trigger on the Optimus Prime a while ago, and I think I paid around about 140, 150 quid for it. But I know a friend of mine, Big Dave, who buys a lot of Lego, Star Wars Lego, and it's, it's in the hundreds. So yeah, it's not cheap stuff. I just came out my Batcave. Yeah, very cool. Andy, I've been a terrible geek recently, not read many books and really missed it. Back on it now, mate. So look forward to chatting comics with you, Pete. Yeah, Andy, and I'm quite mindful that I started this channel off as a comic-based channel, talking about my love of Marvel and comics and all that kind of jazz. And over the last 6 months in particular, I've morphed into an action figure toy channel. And I want to get back to me comics because this is where my passion lies. I want to do a mix. So I'm thinking I might end up doing this show as a regular show. So if anybody wants to jump on and talk comics, by all means, drop us a line, because I think this is probably going to be something I do quite regularly from now on. Friday night at the video store, current X-Men has been trash. Mate, it's been trash for ages. Yeah, I kind of lost the will to live when we got to X of Swords, and I just thought I can't bear it anymore. And I've moaned about this before, but X of Swords had such a cool premise. And then we got halfway through, and instead of having sword fights, they were having dance-offs and things like that. I thought, I can't be doing. I'm too old for this shit. So yeah, I moved on from that. Friday night, the video, I enjoyed Survival 2, Dark Horse Output, Old Rival. Yeah, I'm a big fan of some of these indie titles, to be honest. Dark Horse classes indie, I would, yeah. And yeah, and Survival is interesting. It is very interesting. Austin, I'll still need to open my... You've got a HasLab Sentinel, you swine. I would love a HasLab Sentinel. I would love even more a Unicron. I think they did a Unicron a while back, which looks absolutely stunning. Oh, we've got Roscoe. Nice to see you, mate. Just stopping by to say hello. Thank you very much, Roscoe. Always appreciate you, mate. Action figures and comics. Yeah. Andy, you're in. Good stuff, my man. Good stuff. Friday night, would enjoy this as a regular show. Defo, brilliant. Thank you very much. You're a What You Enjoy channel. That's why everyone enjoys it so much. Thank you. I appreciate that, Andy. X-Men haven't been good for years. Shame. Best team in comics. Honestly, can't read it. Yeah, Jack, I agree. And what they've done with Beast just baffles us. I cannot get my head around. Yeah, I just cannot. Last run I really enjoyed was Charles Soule's Astonishing. Yeah, that was very cool. And I particularly loved, I can't remember who wrote it. Andy will know, or someone will know in the chat. The X-Force run, where they had the kind of the Archangel and Apocalypse run. That was superb with the grey and black costumes. Moving on to this book. This is by Mad Cave, I think it's called. I've never heard of this company, but this is a book called You've Been Cancelled. Now, first off the bat, the art style, I have to say, isn't particularly for me. It is an interesting kind of art, but the comic itself was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Premise of this is that in the future, cancel culture has gone kind of wild, and basically the general population can vote on people they want to be cancelled for whatever reason they want. Once the vote is put in, and the vote kind of wins, whoever wins the vote, that person is then open season, and you've got all these bounty hunters basically who hunt them down and kill them. It's a bit like, showing me age, it's a bit like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Running Man. There's that kind of feel to it, that people are running through the cities and stuff, and you've got all these odd characters hunting them down. This was really good. I enjoyed it. This is the main character is an ex-military guy with a bionic arm, and he's one of the guys who hunts people down. And for the majority of the comic, that's what you've got. Spoilers ahead, by the way. That's what you've got. This guy hunting people down, and then at the very end of the book, there's a twist, and all of a sudden he's on the cancelled list. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I will definitely pick this up because it was just a fun, interesting premise. I really did enjoy it. Luke, I like the mixture of videos. You like me. You like a lot of stuff. Absolutely do. I do. Hello, mate. Nice to see you, Bill. Thank you very much for joining. Always a pleasure. Andy, we should have this from the comic community law. yeah. Because you imagine, Christ, I know who I'd vote for. Anyway, next we've got this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Street Fighter. Not a massive Street Fighter fan. I played the game, obviously, but I've never read any comic books related to them. I am a bit of a Turtles fan. I picked this up basically on the recommendation of the guys over at the Killer Comic Show. I know they've been talking about the various covers for a long time. So I had a read of this. My first impression was I had to go back and look at the cover again because I didn't know if this was like a part 2 or something, because it literally starts with the Turtles and help us out. The guy with the big hair at the back there, is that Bison, I think? But it basically starts with them in a fight in the middle of the story. So it kind of felt like I was coming on halfway through. That said, I enjoyed the artwork. I thought the Turtles rendition was really, really cool. It was a fun story. It felt like a very old school kind of book to me, back from the heyday when I used to read an awful lot of comics. It just felt like a fun story. So yeah, I enjoyed that. That's worth a read. Yeah, thank you very much, Guile. Yeah, I thought Bison's the baddie, isn't he? Is that M. Bison? I don't know. Mad Cave Comics did Nottingham. That was good. Yeah, I've got the first issue of Nottingham, but I've not read it yet. But yeah, that's a very cool series. Andy's saying Killer Comic Crew reviewing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles next week. Excellent. Please do make sure you check that out because it will be a great review, I'm sure. And I enjoyed it. Silly and fun with good art. Absolutely. That's how I felt. And I'm a fan of the more adult, complicated books. Your things like your Made in Korea, your Many Deaths of Layla Starr, all that kind of stuff. I like books that make us, think. But also, I'm a sucker for something that's just a quick, easy read. And this was a quick, easy read. This, for me, was very similar, and I've talked about it before, to the current Marvel run, Clobbering Time, which is a Thing-based story. 5 issues. Each issue, basically, you get into a fight with an overarching enemy. But it's just great fun, and it's not too complicated, not too deep. You can just sit and have a bit of a read of it, which is what I really enjoyed. Andy, first page was class. Absolutely, mate. That hooked us straight away. I knew straight away I was going to be into it, so I loved it. We've got Efren. Thank you very much for joining, Efren. When do you have time to read comic books? I am. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Okay, next, Venom 20. I haven't been keeping up to speed with Venom, so I've not read the main book for a long time. So this was my first reintroduction into him. I am liking what Marvel do with their books now, where the first page is kind of a rundown of what's been happening so far. I found that very helpful. This picks up with basically a table of bones, which is Eddie Brock. And then he transforms into what he's calling a human symbiote. And I loved it. I wasn't expecting to love this book, but I really did. It had Terminator vibes in it. There's a point where he does a whole Terminator scene, taking someone's leather jacket and stuff, and then he gets them to spray paint the white Venom symbol on the back of the jacket. There's some excellent action in it. The artwork, I think, is stellar. It's really, really cool. And then it ends with him confronting the big bad. Now, not been in Venom for a while, so someone in the chat tells who it is. Big red guy. Big kind of hulking looking Venom kind of red guy. Don't know. But anyway, ended with him saying that. I really enjoyed this. This was, like I say, better than I expected. I will definitely pick up the next issue. This felt like a good jumping on point for people. And I'm intrigued by Eddie's new powers. So I've read stuff saying he'll never be Venom before, but he's now this kind of hybrid his body, his entire, rather than the symbiote moving around, his entire body is the symbiote, so he can bend his arms. It was good. Jack, no, I don't think it was toxin. It was it looked like a Hulk, to be honest. It was like a red Hulk. I don't know. Anyway, didn't say his name that I noticed, but yeah. Right. The ambassadors. This for me has been a bit of a disappointment. I loved the concept, although what I would say is it's nothing new. You know, assembling a team of heroes from different nationalities. We've had Justice League Europe, we've had Justice League International, different Avengers iterations. Mark Millar's writing is normally stellar, and I love his work. But this book, I don't know. Andy Bedlam, absolutely. Sorry, Andy's bang on. That's who it was. I remember that now. So Bedlam was the character at the end. I'm interested to know what you guys think of Ambassadors. I've enjoyed the book, but it hasn't blown us away. And this last issue didn't change my view on it, really. It's left it as we kind of expected it to be left. There's some bizarre dialogue in there. Again, I know particularly Andy hasn't read it yet, so I'm not going to spoil the overarching story. But it just fell a bit flat for me. And there's a line at the end, which when you read the book, about a wheelchair, which just feels so out of place and so weird. So yeah, it's sadly not blown us away, this one. Whereas Nemesis I really enjoyed by Mark Millar. But it's left it very much open for this being the kind of the first run of this book. And basically all we've done in 5 issues is establish the team. There's a nice little twist regarding Australia at the end, which was kind of predictable. But yeah, overall, basically, Mark Millar set up his version of the Avengers, I think. And I think this is going to tie into the big Millar World crossover, where I think this team will be used to kind of go up against the fraternity and things like that. Jack is saying, I haven't liked it either, mate, and I can't believe Mark Millar is on this. Don't feel like his comic. He always produces quality. That's really interesting, Jack, because that's exactly what I said, I think, to the guys on Killer Comics Crew a little while ago, when I said, this just doesn't feel like his dialogue. It doesn't feel like his storytelling at times. Stuff just feels odd. And I guess for me, my biggest twist, because I'm being a miserable old git, I know that, is when this book first came out, there was all this hyperbole about it being kind of, you know, the most shocking story ever, and it's going to be the biggest story ever, and blah blah blah. It's not like, it's a very by the numbers forming of a superhero team kind of thing. Yeah, anyway, maybe I'm just grumpy. Interested to know what people's views are. Next we've got Marvel Red Goblin. I've talked about this before. This is issue number 5. For those of you that don't know about this series, this is Normie Osborn, so the grandson of the Green Goblin, who's got his own symbiote now. I shouldn't like this. I've said this repeatedly. I shouldn't like this book because it's, you know, about a little tiny kid and all the rest of it. But this, for me, is one of the better Spider-Man books out there. In fact, I'll probably argue the best Spider-Man book. I like the Goblin. I like the power set. I like Normie. I like his relationship with Dylan Brock. I've been thoroughly enjoying this series. The first 4 issues for me have been stellar. And then we get to this, Carnage Rules, part 4 of 7, crossover issue, and it's crap. And this for me speaks volumes about the current state of comics, in that you've got to kind of lever in big crossover events all the time into these books, and it spoils the flow of the comics for me. So Carnage, again, I've lost touch with, but the way I've picked it up is he's now got Iron Man powers. I think he's got the Extremis abilities as well. So this is basically just part of that big crossover. It drags Normie into it. I wish it hadn't. I wish they'd just left him to continue on his normal stories. So I was a little bit disappointed with this. Star Signs issue 2 by Image. Dreadful artwork. Really, really not my cup of tea. I'm sure it's for some people, but for me, it ain't my cup of tea at all. The story, though, is really interesting. So the storyline is basically that the stars, the constellations, disappeared last issue, and now you've got various characters turning up with star sign powers. So you've got kind of Taurus, Libra, and all that kind of jazz. Gemini. So Gemini is an actor who can morph his face into different characters and things like that, and one of them can stop time and things. So the story and the concept of it is really interesting. I just really don't like the artwork, but I'm plowing through it. I will continue to read it because it is a good story. Andy, Sins of Salton C1 was my favourite read this week from AWA. High story, great characters. I haven't seen that one. I'll have to read that after this. I haven't read that one, Andy. I'll have to go and see if I can get that digitally and see what it's like. Luke, very intrigued with Red Goblin. I've been telling you for bloody weeks, Luke, read Red Goblin. It's really, really good. That and what's it called? Hallows Eve. That and Hallows Eve are the best Spider-Man books out there at the moment, in my humble opinion. Friday night, couldn't agree more. The crossovers do ruin the flow of the books, and it's so frustrating when they've been hitting this right. Yeah, mate. Like I say, I really enjoy this book, Red Goblin, and then all of a sudden you get this crossover, and it's kind of just it's spoiled it a little for us. So much to the point where next issue, if it's part of the crossover, I'll not bother reading it. I don't think. I'll wait until the crossover's done and dusted. Waiting for Salt and Sea to arrive. Ooh, Andy, you've piqued me interest now. I'm going to have a look at that. Deadman, AWA is an ace company to read. Yeah, I mean, we were talking Deadman and text message through the week about AWA. They've got some stunning books out. In fact, it's one of my favourite publishers at the moment. They do some great work. Luke, bad art takes me out of the book. Absolutely, Luke. Couldn't agree more, mate. Next, we've got Spider-Man. This should be stellar. This is by Slott, and it's got art by Bagley. Bagley being probably my favourite Spider-Man artist. And this story just makes no sense. So this is Spider-Man has decided that he needs to increase the ability of his spider sense so that he can save more people faster. So he goes to the Green Goblin, as you would, to experiment on him genetically, as you would. And all of a sudden now he can hear and see everything. It's exactly the same story we've had in various issues in the past in terms of Superman, where he can hear everything and he gets overloaded by his powers, basically. Electro makes an appearance. There is a really cool scene where Electro breaks into, I think, is it Fort Knox or somewhere like that, some bank, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of gold bars. And he's like, wow, I'm going to be rich beyond belief kind of thing. And then he picks 3 bars up and realizes, hang on a minute, I haven't thought this through. I can only carry 3 bars at a time because it's so heavy. And I quite like that. I thought that was quite funny. This also delves a little bit more into that Spider-Boy character. He makes some interesting comments in it. The kind of hinting at who he is and what his background is. They've not given it away yet, but what's the comment he makes? He says something like, Peter's always tried to be more like me, or something like that. I can't remember. I'm really hoping that I'm wrong, but I think they're going to try and imply that this Spider-Boy is the spider that bit Peter Parker or something like that, because he's got additional eyes and things. Anyway, I don't know. The character seems to have taken the world by storm. Everybody on the planet's got 4 or 5 copies of his first appearance. Andy, great to watch YouTube content about recent comic releases that someone has actually read. Yeah, thank you very much, Andy. And there's a lot of people out there who collect comics, but I am an old man and I like to read comics, as I know a lot of you guys do. Nice to see you, Brian. Thank you very much for joining. Jack, shame. Oh, God. Shame Thor has taken the shit art look lately. You can just about read it. Yeah. So, Jack, Thor being my favourite character, I can't read that book anymore. I put some images of it on a show a little while ago. It's just dreadful. I'm very glad that there's going to be a reboot by Al Ewing with covers by Alex Ross, although I don't like Alex Ross's cover, called The Immortal Thor, and that's coming out, I think, in the next couple of months. So I will be picking that up and giving that a go, because I absolutely loved the Immortal Hulk run. So hopefully it's similar to that. Luke, I like the Marvel Zombies Resurrection. Yeah, that Peter's spider sense was constantly tripping him due to there being danger everywhere. Yeah, that was very good. Very cool. Dead Man, that's the point of comics, I thought, anyway. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. But you would be, maybe you wouldn't. You would be surprised by how many people collect slabs and first issues and things like that, but don't actually read a comic. I always find it quite interesting. Are you looking forward to anything specific next week? Void Rivals, yeah, that looks very, very cool. Click, Click, Boom, not seen that one, Andy. I'm going to have a little look-see at that one. Not seen that. Okay, so that's those 3. can't even talk to you about Deadpool Bad Eye Blood. Going back to the comment we've just made about artwork there, just not for me. I skipped through it quite rapidly. Rob Liefeld just doesn't do it for us, I'm afraid. So much so that I couldn't even ingest the story. It just jumped past us. Same mate, can't wait for it. Loved most of this run until the end due to the art, not the story. Can't wait for the Ultimates reboot too. Yeah, that'd be very cool. Now, this one completely took me by surprise. This is Loki #1. This was friggin' amazing. If you enjoy Thor and you enjoy that kind of stuff, this was just it was brilliant. I pride myself on having a good knowledge of Thor and that kind of mythology and stuff like that. So I don't know if someone tell us in the comments. I don't know if this mythology around his boat is Loki's boat is being mentioned before, if this was completely new. But this is basically his ship, which is made from the fingernails of dead warriors. So basically it tells you about how the Vikings back in the day used to cut dead bodies' fingernails so that Loki couldn't take the nails and create this ship. He does create the ship, so it's made out of billions of fingernails and it's incredibly powerful. It talks a little bit about Loki's new status, which I wasn't aware of, really. So Loki's no longer the god of lies. He's now the king of the frost giants, and he's also the god of stories. So he's the god of stories, which is really interesting. I didn't realize that. And this story sets up the premise of basically frost giants nick this ship and crash it into the world tree. It shatters, the ship breaks apart, and parts of it are cast across the galaxy. One lands in Midgard, and some of them land elsewhere. And Loki's quest is now to kind of go and hunt down these bits of the ship, because they can be used to forge different powers and weapons. And you see some of the creatures kind of forging a battle axe out of this bit of the ship. And the issue ends, spoilers, with it looking like Loki's being beheaded. I absolutely loved this. I will definitely be picking up issue 2. I read most of my comics digitally. This is a book that I'll be buying first. I'll be setting off and getting this first issue. I tend to, if I really enjoy the comic, I'll buy it in the physical copy. So I've got a copy. So yeah, I loved this. Andy Naglafar. Yeah, right. Okay, so that it means nail fairy is Old Norse. Excellent. I didn't realize that, mate. I didn't realize that. So that is very cool. It appears heavily in World of Warcraft and the Witcher video games. Excellent. I love it when it's actually based on a bit of proper history. So yeah, really love this, guys. I would really recommend checking this out. Junkyard Rabbit. I've been thoroughly enjoying this series. It's an interesting one set in the future where kind of the corporate world have taken over and they've got these big mega cities, a bit like Judge Dredd kind of mega cities and things like that. And outside of the cities, you've just got these people surviving in massive piles of dirt and junk and all the rubbish. And in these kind of slum areas, you've got this mythical creature called the Junk Rabbit who appears and defends them, basically. This is issue 3. It's getting really intriguing. It's kind of planting the seeds as to who actually is the Junk Rabbit, if it is a person. And then in each issue, there's been some really tremendous kind of battle scenes. So yeah, this is, again, a bit of an interesting one from Image. Well worth a read. I would recommend you pick that up. It's probably the one, I don't know how many issues it is, but it's probably the one to pick up in trade paperback. I'll be buying the trade paperback of this once it's complete, because it's just a nice, odd, off-the-wall little series. Well worth a read. And I see Deadman, is it Deadman? Yeah, Deadman saying he thought Junk Rabbit was good. Yeah, mate, I love it. I am enjoying it. And we've got Graham. Nice to see you, Graham, man. Thank you very much for joining. And you recycled Usagi. Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's a rabbit. So yeah, well worth picking that one up and having a bit of a read. It's good fun. Oh, Daredevil #12. So yeah, great. We've just been talking about that. So in Loki, the latest kind of series that's come out, it's got a lot of stuff about his ship, which is created using dead warriors' fingernails, which was really interesting. It's a good read. Daredevil 12. I'm come on to Daredevil too late, really. I've kind of missed a lot of the Zdarsky kind of run. I've started picking it up recently because it kind of tied in with the Punisher run. But this was brilliant. This was a really interesting story. It's kind of the end of the big arc, as it were. It's got that stunning splash page I've put on there of all the different versions of Daredevil and Elektra over the years, kind of battling. At its heart, it's a story about love and religion. I'm not a big religion man, but actually this made sense in terms of the character. Obviously, Daredevil being a Catholic, a devout Catholic. I'm not going to spoil the issue because people who want to watch, who want to read it will I'm sure enjoy it. There's a great kind of battle scene at the end, and Daredevil gets a new costume, which I know is a bit cliche, but actually the costume looks phenomenal, and it sets up, I think, a very interesting arc for Daredevil going forward. So yeah, really enjoyed it. I will be picking up the next issue. It was much better than I thought. Grey Man, yeah, straight out of the mythology. Can't imagine toenail ships. Oh, that's seaworthy. No, yeah, bit crunchy. Yeah. Ephron, past Daredevil, my favourite character. Love Street Level Heroes. Yeah, and Ephron, big shout out to you, mate. It was you that got me onto this, really. I know you're a huge Daredevil fan. I don't know if you've read the latest issue, mate, but it really is very cool. And I know you've commented in the past about Daredevil's religion, so it's worth reading this one because there's some lovely kind of commentary about that in here. Well worth a read. Okay, Flash 800, celebration of Wally West. Wally West, just to be clear, Wally West is my Flash. I was gutted when they kind of replaced him again with Barry Allen. No disrespect to Barry Allen, he's a good character, but Wally was always the Flash I was most familiar with. I absolutely loved this 800-page special. It was a callback to when I really enjoyed Flash. It had story. It's basically a compendium of about 5 stories, I think. It had some great callbacks to people like Bart Allen, Impulse, and Max Mercury. It had stories by Mark Waid, Jeff Jones. Some of the artwork was spectacular. We got one of my favorite characters, Zoom, coming back. So not the Reverse Flash, but the Hunter Zolman version of Zoom, and it retold his origin a little bit. It was just lovely to see Wally West kind of taking center stage again. I understand that there's an issue 1 coming out soon, a new Flash starring Wally and his family. So feels like it's time for me to pick Flash back up again and start reading that. Really enjoyed that comic. Breath of Shadows. This is the end of the mini series, with stellar artwork as ever by Alex Cormack. I've read all of this team's books, so Sea of Sorrows and Road of Bones, I think the other one was called. I'm interested to know if anybody's read this one, because for me, dare I say it, this is the weakest of the 3 mini-series. I found this one quite hard to understand at the end. I wasn't 100% sure I knew what was going on. That's maybe I need to read it again, perhaps. I need to get it in trade paperback and have a full read. Yeah, the artwork was spectacular as ever from Alex. It was absolutely gruesome. There's a scene where 2 male characters kiss, and it's just nausea-inducing because basically what he's doing is transferring this bloody centipede thing into the other guy's mouth, and it chokes him. It's horrific. But in terms of the story, it's a one I probably need to go back and reread because it left us scratching my head, put it that way. Interesting to know if anybody else has read with that. Andy's saying there, yeah, I agree. It was just okay. Yeah, Andy, I think the weakest of the 3 for me, to be honest. Dead Man, the writer changes with the new Flash #1. Yep, it does. Not sure if it'll be Wally Barry. I think it's Wally, mate, because it says the Flash. I'm sure it said the Flash's family, so I'm assuming it's Wally based. I hope so anyway. Style over substance for me. Absolutely, Andy. Absolutely. Like I say, that last issue had a scratch. I know I'm a bit slow, but it had a scratch in my head trying to figure out what it was trying to tell us, what was going on. Next book, The Joker Uncovered. This was quite nice. So this is basically a collection of a lot of the big Joker covers that have been out over the last year or so, with every now and then you get an image of the Joker and he's kind of talking to you and telling you about the cover. An easy flick through because it's just artwork, basically. Not a one I would necessarily rush out to buy unless you want a compendium of that artwork, I guess. But yeah, it was interesting. That's not what I was necessarily expecting, but a nice poster book, I guess you would call it. Almost at the end, guys. So Dawn of DC, this is Adventures of Superman John Kent. Not a character I know a massive amount about, but I thought this was great. So I've read the first 3 issues. I really enjoy John Kent. I like his costume. I like, this is the son of Superman. And this series in particular has been superb. So this is basically John. It started off with Ultraman going around the multiverse killing versions of Superman. And then he fought John, and he ended up in the Injustice universe. So Injustice from the computer game, which then spilled out into a comic, which is an amazing read. And basically now John Kent is stuck in the universe with his dad, Superman, who's this kind of authoritarian leader. Really enjoyed this. It's a great storyline. I love the Injustice world, so I'm really pleased to see that in the comics. And actually, I find John Kent a really interesting character. So yeah, enjoying that. Red Room, dear Lord. Red Room, Crypto Killers. I don't know if anybody's read any of the Red Room stuff. See what I did there? Read it? It's rough. It's rough stuff. So I read the original 5-issue, I think, miniseries a while ago. I don't know if I've continued on since then, but I picked this one up and had a bit of a read of it. Red Rooms are basically rooms where people get murdered and killed in gruesome ways and then broadcast over the internet for sickos to watch and pay for. And this kind of picks up at the end about one of the characters who has been murdering people in the Red Room, and then he's died, and it's someone trying to find out where all his money's stashed. Really weird books. The artwork is a bit rough. It's graphic. It's black and white. If you like horror, it's worth a read, and certainly the first 5 issues of Red Room is worth a read. But it's a hard read, so it is very, very gruesome and quite sick. So yeah, it's a one to just be aware of. Blood Tree by Image again. This has been a great series. I've really, really enjoyed this. It's basically an old style murder mystery. Reminds us very much of things like Seven and Kiss the Girls and that kind of stuff. It feels to me very much written like it should be a TV series or a movie series. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it. The basic premise is this guy, this nutter, is going around killing people and stitching wings to them, putting wings on the back, and basically he's killing people who have got some kind of link genetically or in families to people who've committed murders. And his idea is that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, so he's killing them before they kind of commit a crime. I've really enjoyed it. I thought it's been a really good series. My only grumble and criticism would be that the cover artwork is stunning. Internal artwork is pretty ropey. It's just not my style. But yeah, it's a really good story, and this is starting to wrap up now. So I think next issue is the last issue. This ended on a really cool cliffhanger. I would love to see this as a Netflix series or a movie or something like that. It's very, very cool. Quick jump onto the chat. Andy, give Whale and Blade a read. My favorite. I've not read that one either, Andy. So that's a good shout. In the comments, guys, if you've got any recommendations for books that are out at the moment or are coming out or whatever, stick them in the chat so people can have a little look. Always nice to share what people have enjoyed, I think. Dead Man, waiting for number 5 of Blood Tree, but the first 4 excellent. Yeah, I agree, mate. It's been one of those stories that I'm used to reading superhero stories. I don't read a lot of kind of true crime and all that kind of stuff, but this has really kind of hooked us in. I've been enjoying this a lot. Jack, you started reading The Mighty Barbarians yet? No, I've not read that one. I'll have to pick that one up as well. So much good stuff to read. Everyone, my problem specifically with Marvel books, I've been reading them for decades and they're hard not to read them even when they are bad. Yeah, but the Hulk when he's a spaceship, I had to stop reading. Yeah, you kind of, and this is the worry, isn't it? You start reading and you don't want to stop because it's kind of almost a habit, and you put up with some crap. Okay, guys, that's all of the stuff I've been reading this week. Let us know if you've enjoyed this show. We've gone on longer than I expected, and I've had far more people watching than I expected. So thank you very much for that. Really do appreciate you watching and appreciate you commenting in the chat. If this is the kind of thing you want to see us doing more of, please do let us know. If you'd like to be part of this, please do let us know. because I'd love to do this with somebody else. If anybody wants to join in, it just means you've got to read a lot of comics. But yeah, thank you very much, and do let us know if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. Deadman's just saying Hulk's back on Earth. Yeah, Deadman, I saw the preview image a while ago, and it's trying to do more of a horror kind of theme, I think, to Hulk, which is bang up my street. So yeah, I will be picking that up. Great, I managed to stop. Old comics in my jam now. Yeah, you pick up a lot of old stuff, don't you, bud? Yeah. And Andy, see you all in about 3 hours. Yeah, I'm sorry. I ask a lot of you, I know, asking you to watch all this stuff. But yeah, I do appreciate it. Okay, chaps, thank you all very much. Really do appreciate you watching. Again, like I say, let us know if you want more comic book content, because I've enjoyed this. Actually, I've enjoyed talking about stuff I've been reading. Please don't forget, as some of the guys have mentioned, later on tonight, 9 o'clock, we've got our usual Saturday Night Live show, and we're going to be doing Geek Report, what you've been buying, what you've been watching, all that kind of stuff, and talking about the best and worst sequels. They're going to be fights. I know there is, because some of the stuff people have said are the worst sequels of all time are some of my favourites. So I'm sure we'll be having a barney about that. Before that show, at 7 o'clock, jump over onto the Grey Man's channel for Cover Slingers, which I believe is Redhead week. Gray, let us know in the chat if that's right. I think you're doing Redhead covers, aren't you? Which will be great fun, I'm sure. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Always appreciate you stopping by, and I really do appreciate everybody's support. And we'll catch you later on tonight. Bye now.